Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and I ride my mouse fakie when I'm editing videos. Today, we're talking about the Good Ride short wide favorites. Last year, it used to be alternative free ride and short wide lumped into one group. I thought I'd give short wides their own category this year. And if you don't know about me, I've ridden over 800 snowboards, closer to 1,000 if you count the different versions of the same model over the years. I extensively test and compare. On top of that, I go up with several boards, same bindings, same boots, same run, same stance width, same stance angles, and nobody else in the world tests boards the way I do. So this is a very unique perspective. I'm not somebody just going up and taking a day on a board and then calling it a review. I'm no ripper, I'm pretty average, but that translates well to 98% of the riders out there. Just so you know, this is no pay-to-play favorites list. These boards earned their spot here by how they ride. I don't even require to keep these boards. All I ask for is a return label so I can ship them home. I will say that the boards on this list are special. They're the kind of boards I want to own. Some of them I do. And if you want to support honest, objective content like this, the best is to support Blauer Board Shop. They've been selling to snowboarders for a long time. They have a pretty big online presence these days, and they'll compete with the bigger stores in terms of price matching, shipping, customer service. They're quite deserving of your hard-earned cash when it comes to buy a snowboard. It's a great way to help support honest, objective content. So what's a short wide to the Good Ride? Well, these are boards that are typically like an alternative free ride or a free ride snowboard, but they come in a much shorter, wider package. You ride these considerably smaller than you would a normal size snowboard. Go to the Good Ride, use our filter tools, and check out the different categories we have here. There are tons of different snowboards out there, and we've done our best to categorize them so you understand a little better how they work. And before we get to the short wide favorites list, I just want to say we're living in a glorious time. There are so many amazing boards out there. So if yours didn't make the favorite, it could still be better for you than the boards on this list. So first up on the list, the Stranda Biru. And this is my favorite carver on this list, but it's fun at many things. It's best for advanced expert riders. It's a pretty directional shape with 12 to 13 millimeters of taper. There's a 20 millimeter setback on side cut at about a 20.86 stance width. And if you want to set it all the way back for powder, you can get negative 4.5 inches back from center of board at a 21.5 inch stance width, thanks to the 7x2 inserts. So it's kind of like setback inserts for mini discs. This is pretty much full technical catchy camber, maybe a touch of early rise, but not much. It's got a medium stiff flex. It's a little challenging to butter, but it's got great pop, and it's a great all conditions ride. The Biru made this list because it's just a full camber, hard carving, weight your turns any way you like, short wide, with a fast base and a pretty friendly setback, an easy float in POW for a almost full camber board. I just love the way this turned and carved. I love the little extra bit of grip in the side cut, and it's a board I just love to own in a 150. Next up is the Telos Backslash, a fun, poppy, lively, turny, slashy little ride. This is best for committed intermediates to experts. It's got 17 millimeters of taper with a much bigger nose versus the tail. It's 25 millimeters back on side cut at I think around a 22 inch stance width, not sure on that. And if you set it all the way back, it's 4.75 inches back on board at a 22 inch stance width. This has a directional camber with a little bit of early rise before the nose and some passive bends throughout the camber profile that give it a little extra pop. The flex is medium bordering on medium stiff. It's got a lot of energy. It's very poppy. It's very easy to ollie. It's okay to butter, and it's a very good all conditions ride for a board like this, even though it can be a little bucky and bouncy and soft on even snow. The Telos Backslash is a very fun, lively, energetic little one board quiver or quiver ride. It can carve almost as well as it can slash. I rode this in a 48 and a 53. I wish they had a size in between, but I find myself recommending this to many riders if their specs match with Telos' sizing. Next up is the K2 Excavator, a fun, somewhat forgiving charger. This works for intermediates on up to experts. There's 20 millimeters of taper and it's a pretty directional shape. There's 20 millimeters set back on side cut at about a 21-inch stance width. And if you want to set it all the way back, you can get negative 4.625 inches back from center of board at a 21.75-inch stance width. This has a mellow directional camber with a decent amount of early rise before the nose and a touch before the tail. It's medium stiff. It's got a lot of pop for such a mellow camber profile, and it's a pretty good all conditions ride in everything except for hard micro bumpy snow. The K2 Excavator made this list because it's not the best at anything, but it's easy and fun at everything. And other than having a slower base and more chatter than some in hard uneven snow, it's an easy but fun board to carve, has easy float and pow, pops easy for its camber, can straight line really well. So if you want something that's forgiving but yet aggressive, this could work for you. Next up is the Lib Tech Orca. This is the super forgiving, easy riding, easy floating, hard gripping, back foot weighted, every person's ride. This works for beginners to experts, and it's not boring at any ability level. This only has 10 millimeters of taper, but it has a very directional shape to it. It's 2.5 inches back on side cut at approximately a 22-inch stance width. They don't disclose stance widths. And if you want to set it all the way back, you can get negative 4.75 inches back from center of board at about a 22.6-inch stance width. This has a lot of bends in the camber profile. There's rocker right between the feet that dominates this profile with a mellow elliptical camber over the front foot, slowly transitioning into a little bit of early rise, and then a short but taller camber off the back foot. There's a medium stiff flex with easy pop. It's not hard to butter, and it's a very good all conditions ride. And the Lib Tech Orca makes snowboarding easier and fun in a little short wide package. I've owned a 153 and 150. It has easy float and pow. It has excellent grip. It does feel a little loose, a little auto spinny, but once you get that edge committed, it feels really good. And it was really fun to lean into that camber on the back foot and get it to spring out of a turn. And year over year, I find myself recommending this. Next up is the Salomon Dancehaul. This is a low-cost favorite with a mountain freestyle personality in a tapered directional shape. And I would definitely not pigeonhole this as just for people on a budget. It works for everybody from intermediates on up to experts. It's got 12 millimeters of taper and a pretty directional shape, but it's centered on side cut at a 21-inch stance and negative 4.375 inches set back on board at a 21-inch stance if you want to set it all the way back. There's camber between the feet with early rise before the nose and tail, but when you step on this board, it rockers up more than it looks like on the table. It's got a medium flex with easy pop, it's easy to butter, and it's a pretty fun all conditions ride as long as you don't like to charge through chunder. Its own very special, unique personality. Don't let this tapered directional shape fool you into thinking this is like the other boards on this list. It's easier than all of them to ride switch. It springs off side hits. It's fun to butter and still has a pretty satisfying spring out of the turn. If you really want to do a little bit of everything, almost like an all mountain board, but in a shorter, wider, more tapered directional looking shape, this could be your choice. And last up is the hard snow favorite, the Gnu Gremlin. This is just so good in hard snow. It's super poppy and it's a very fun board to turn. It works mainly for advanced to expert riders. In a lot of ways, it's a full camber counterpart to the Orca. This has 12 millimeters of taper and a pretty directional shape. It's 2 inches back on side cut at approximately a 21-inch stance width. They don't mark their reference stance. It's 4 inches back from center of board at a 21.5-inch stance width if you want to set it all the way back for powder. This is pretty much full camber from tip to tail with only a little passive bend in the middle that helps get you a little more spring and dynamic energy out of the turn. This is more medium-ish when it comes to flex, but it has exceptional pop, yet still handles all conditions pretty well. The Gremlin made this list because it just grips so well. It feels so stable in hard to icy snow, but it has such a fun spring out of the turn. It's so easy to engage this and get it to pop on an ollie. Yeah, the base isn't the fastest, it can get a little thirsty, and the float isn't the best for this kind of shape and this kind of category, but man, this is an easy board to grab on a hard day and have a blast with. So that rounds out this short wides list. I hope this helps. Check the full reviews. Use our comparison tool. Use our filters on thegoodride.com. A lot of questions you ask here on YouTube could be answered there if you just click through. And if this did help, please like and subscribe. Buy through our links, and especially through our sponsor, Blauer Board Shop. They're helping us provide honest, objective content for the average snowboarder. So help them back by buying through our links to them. Join Patreon, where you can get early access, unique content, and free advice at most tiers. And if you want advice, it's best not to ask it here on YouTube. Instead, become a Patreon member or contact me directly through the website. Fill out that form. You'll get exponentially better advice than you would on YouTube. But if you don't want to spend money for advice and you just want a quick answer, please at least include your boot size, super important, height, weight, the make, model, year, and size board you ride now, and how it works for you so I can give you better advice. The same goes if you want to share your take. Otherwise, it makes no sense and doesn't help. So thanks for all your support these 14 years of doing this full-time and 18 years of doing this part-time. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next vid.